So you want to introduce yourself and kind of what business you own, and we'll kind of start from there.
Yeah, my name is Danika Gordon, and I own Vivant Fine Cheese and Pasorobles.
Right. So let's start from the beginning. I kind of went on the website a little bit. You majored in dairy, but also minored in agricultural business at Cal Poly, correct?
Correct, yes.
So that's kind of where you started with all this, your dairy journey, your cheese journey, right?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
So how was that program? Did they teach you all the stuff that you know now, or how did you pick up all this stuff that you kind of know now?
Well, at Cal Poly, I learned the basics and the fundamentals of how cheese is made and the science behind it, and also the husbandry side of it, so taking care of the cows and how the cows make the milk and the science behind how the cow works to produce the milk that we use to make cheese. So that was, I basically learned commercial cheese making and how that works at Cal Poly. And then I went out into I also worked making cheese and making butter, and because Cal Poly is a learn by doing school, so
Which is great.
Yeah. I drove the milk truck, from the dairy, and
Wow.
it was fun. Yeah, I worked there all 4 years, which was great.
So you had to take it from the beginning, from the cow, milk the cows, and then start the whole process there, right?
Yeah, I never milked cows.
Never milked cows.
They had people for that, but I did pump the milk into the truck and then take it to the plant and then unload it. And then we make cheese and butter, whatever's on the agenda for that day.
That's crazy. So in your curriculum, you had different kinds of cheeses that you had to make. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And what did you make there?
When we were doing it, we were making dairy products for the schools. So we would, bag milk in 5-gallon bags for the cafeteria, and real basic stuff. So we were making cheddar, we were making pepper jack, we were making Swiss, but nothing too crazy. But nowadays, they do make some really cool cheeses out of Cal Poly.
And they sell them there at the local store, right?
Yeah. We did too, at the little store. We made ice cream with little pints of ice cream and cheeses and all kinds of stuff that we sold there at the store.
So then at that point, you're like, hey, this is kind of what I want to do now? Or you're like, we'll see where this goes?
No, I knew that the dairy industry at that time was very small. So I knew there was a great chance to get a job straight out of college, and that I could really go somewhere and do. I wanted to work in the corporate world, and so I knew that was where I was heading, and it was exciting for me. I knew that was what I wanted to do. We had in the dairy science department at Cal Poly. There's the students are sought after because they do have so much experience when they get out, hands-on experience of making cheese and work and running a dairy plant. So there's a lot of big companies who come in and kind of cherry pick the kids coming out of there. Yeah.
And what kind of companies are those? Are those nationwide, or is that just local to California?
Yeah, no, like Kraft and like the big guys will come in there.
Wow.
And scoop people up.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, are there specific cows that they have to use or that they use there for cheese making?
Yes. So the main two types of dairy cows are Guernsey and Holstein. The Holsteins make a lot of volume of milk, and Jerseys, I meant to say Jerseys, sorry. Jerseys make a high butter fat content. So you want each of those different cows for different reasons. The Holsteins will make a lot of volume. So if you want to make a lot of just cheddar cheese, you want Holstein milk all day long. But if you want to make a high quality, like a higher fat cheese or a higher fat product like butter, then you want the Jersey milk, which was the first corporate job I had, was started by 17 Jersey dairy farmers who knew that their milk had more value because of the higher butter content. So they created a company so that they could better utilize the higher fat volume in their milk.
Okay. And is that, so for the higher fat content, is that specifically just to the breed and they just naturally make it, or is that based off of their diet?
No, it's the breed. Well, it's the diet also, but,
a little bit, but
you couldn't make the Holstein cow produce a high fat milk. Yeah.
Okay.
It wouldn't work like that.
Yeah. I mean, you can see my hat there. I had Molnar in the previous week, and she said her parents were one of the first not for dairy, but for the meat department. They donated some of the cows there. I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah,
and she was talking about Holsteins too. She's like, yeah, they're not the greatest for steaks and stuff, but we will use them.
No,
yeah,
they're not made for that.
No. All right. So you got out of school, and then someone scooped you up because you said you wanted to go into corporate as well, right?
Yeah, a company hired me 6 months before I graduated, put me on their payroll.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
like,
it was amazing. Yeah, so I already knew where I was going, and I was already doing a little bit for them, not much. They just wanted me. So, I went and worked for the largest single site dairy producer in the world at the time. So we were making about 2 million pounds of cheese a day there.
Oh my gosh, that's so much.
At the time, that was a lot. Yeah, now there's people doing more than that, but it was really interesting. I got to work in every aspect of the business. I started as the production manager's assistant because his assistant was going out on maternity leave. So I started in like a secretary role sort of, and then just like a few weeks at a time doing all kinds of different things there was really fun for me. You just get to see how everything works, and it's a huge plant. There's more than one plant, but it's a really big place. But the people were so nice and so welcoming, and I was one of the first Cal Poly grads that they had there.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, so it was fun because they wanted me to learn as much as I wanted to learn. So.
And you're like, I'm all for it. Let's go. Like, wow. So I bet there's quite a few steps kind of learning all that stuff. Was that kind of overwhelming coming into that?
Not really, because of the way that they did it. They knew how overwhelming it would be. So that's why they put me in, roles that they knew I could have success in, I think, along the way. And with always the main goal that I wanted to be in sales and marketing. So that was always the focus. They just wanted me to learn a little bit about everything before they sent me out to sell the product.
Nice. So while you were, was there any like cheeses like that you were making at Cal Poly? You're like, wow, this is like really good, or like you still kind of hold today?
Well, so my palate has changed over the years, of course.
I'm sure.
As a college kid, I thought those cheeses were amazing. They're free. Yeah. So I thought the butter we made there was really amazing. It's the best butter I'd ever had. But today I would say my palate's changed a little bit, and don't get me wrong, I still love a good cheddar cheese. Just a regular old mild cheddar is the favorite thing on tacos. So
right.
I would say I didn't hold on to too much, and the dairy department now has changed their product mix completely because one of our local cheesemakers went to run the dairy at Cal Poly. So she's making some really cool stuff out of there now.
So she's like kind of experimenting a little bit, getting a little further out of the cheddar department.
Yeah.
So do they age stuff there too? Like as far as like kind of the more complicated stuff now?
I'm not really sure about that. I think she's doing a lot of soft, fresh cheeses because you just have to. It's all about budget at Cal Poly, so you just have to kind of turn the revenue quickly, and so hanging on to cheese like that in a situation where it might go bad along the way, I just don't think she wants to do that. So she's doing a bunch of soft ripened, which is like brie styles,
right?
And fresh cheeses is what I know of it.
So when you got into your first job, how has it kind of changed now? You kind of touched on it a little bit, saying like there's. They were producing a lot of cheese, but now that's like kind of dwarfs in comparison to what people are doing now, right?
Yeah. When I first started there, like I said, they were making about 2 million pounds of cheese a day. I don't know what they're doing now. I know that they actually took that plant and at least doubled or tripled its size, and then that larger plant, they replicated it and made one in Texas also. So the company that I very first worked for is a big deal now.
Wow. So kind of growing, huh?
Yeah.
How kind of talking about that? How's the cheese, business kind of changed over the years? Like as far as, people's tastes or, how they make it or anything like that?
A lot. Yeah. So when I first graduated, I went straight into the commodity business. So Cheddar Jack, we were shipping 40,000 pound loads across the country and up and down the coast, and so that's how I got started. But then I watched it evolve along the way because people, even Americans' palates are getting more accustomed to the foreign cheeses and the,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
the natural rind and the wash rind, which we weren't really doing here before. I would say about, if I had to put a number on it, like 15, 20 years ago, let's call it 20 years ago,
Yeah.
that we weren't really, our cheesemakers were making cheddar and jack, and they were putting it in a cryovac bag and sticking it in the cooler. And the coolest thing we had was a 10-year-old cheddar from Wisconsin, you know, so
Yeah, right.
I mean, that was
Much
cool.
has changed since then.
Yeah, so now they're making a bunch of really cool stuff, the natural rind, the washed rind, the, like I said, they're aging stuff. They're just trying all kinds of things that I think we weren't really pushed to try before we started seeing all these imports kind of leaking out into regular old American tables, you know.
Definitely. So after you got done there, did you travel at all to kind of like, because you came here obviously to start your business, and you're like, I'm going to be a cheese purveyor, I'm assuming, right?
Well, yeah. So I worked, after that first job, I worked in LA for a couple of years selling cheese, and then in Wisconsin for a couple of years selling, I was their director of West Coast sales. And so I was 2 weeks a month in Green Bay and 2 weeks a month here.
Oh man.
So after 2 years of that,
You're like,
I was
I'm
like,
like, no.
I'm done.
No more.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just started feeling out, you know, at the time. So I don't know, are you local? Did you grow up here?
Yeah.
Okay. So we used to have an auto parts store on the square in Paso where the art studio is now.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an auto parts store. So that was at the time that I was looking at opening. This is going to make me sound super old. The auto parts store was still there.
I'm right there with you. I grew up in San Luis. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I grew up in Atascadero in Paso, but yes. So that was what the square looked like when I first started researching opening a cheese business in Paso. And I did the math, and I just couldn't make it work. I was like, it just doesn't make any sense. You know, we're just not going to make any money doing this.
Yeah.
And so why do it if we're not going to make any money? I could just keep my job I already have. Like,
Right.
I had an office, my Green Bay job, I had an office right on the square in Paso upstairs. And the guy I rented from the landlord of the building, he owned the building that I was renting in for my other job, and he convinced me that it would work and that he would put money in on it. And so,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so
Nice.
I
Well, that's awesome.
yeah, so we did that. We opened that, and it in the very beginning of Vivant, we had we were renting space. Okay, so we were building out our first location and renting space across the street from a very nice couple, Andre and Christina Aversing, who have a restaurant right there now it's called Paso Terra. At the time it was called Dining with Andre. But so we rented out space from them while across the street we were building out, and then bought a large box truck and outfitted the inside of it with hot and cold running water and real-time computer system and a scale system, so that I drove it around. I would go load up the cheese every morning, then drive it around to the restaurants, and the chefs would come on board and we would taste cheese together.
Oh,
and
nice.
they would buy cheese right off the truck. Same with, I could do winery events with it and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
that's
being
how
that
we
mobile.
started. Yeah, that's how we started.
Nice.
Yeah. And then realizing that we really needed a brick and mortar. People are like, where did this cheese come from? And it's a little bit sketch. So
It's a little sketch.
I don't know.
It seems like everybody that I've talked to on here, they've, at least the food people, have started like some kind of food truck before they had a brick and mortar.
Yeah.
It seems to be the route.
Well, that's how we made a name for ourselves. You know, otherwise, I
Yeah.
don't think you can start a brick and mortar without having a little bit of, you know, excitement in the community about who you are and what you're doing. And
Right.
you have to get out there first. If you just open the door and say, "Hey, come and buy my stuff,"
Yeah.
that doesn't work like
Exactly.
that. So
Okay, so that's kind of how you got your name out there. So what do you remember what cheeses you had at that point?
Well, in the very beginning, the investor that I was talking about, he had a vision for a whole bunch of soft French cheeses. So
Okay.
it was, but at the time, it was before Paso became a foodie place. So
Right.
it was too progressive for the town. So we ended up throwing a lot of stuff out in the beginning.
Oh no, I bet
Yeah.
that was not cheap.
Yeah, no. But we learned over time what the product mix should be and what people like. And we've changed the palette of Paso too over,
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds pompous, but
No. It definitely has changed for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So in the beginning we were we were one of two cheese shops in Paso. So there was only one other cheese shop in Paso. And so we just kind of evolved over time where kind of to create this need in Paso for cheese. So I went out to the wineries and, you know, convince them, let's call it, that cheese would enhance their wine tasting experience for their customers. And so we did pairings. I would take all the cheese out to the winery. They would get their tasting room staff around, and we would pair the wines and the cheeses until we got it just right, dial it in, and then bam, that's the cheeses that they would use until they changed their vintages and stuff. But and then that would drive business back to Vivant. People would taste the cheese out there and come back to Vivant and buy it. So we did that with a whole lot of wineries in the beginning. And that was what kind of started changing, I don't want to say the wine industry, but they started changing the industry a little bit, where then it was a new level where we're not just wine tasting anymore. Now we're wine and cheese pairing, you know, so that elevates the experience a little bit for the customers.
And there was just like not too many wineries yet, I'm assuming. There's a few.
180, I think, when we started 18 years ago. I think there was about 180. Now there's
a ridiculous
tons. Yeah, I don't even know what the number is anymore.
It's so many wineries.
It's a
lot. So as technology kind of evolves, is that contributing to cheese making as well? Because I had what's her name? Jennifer from the Vreamery, and she's like, we're using AI to make dairy-free cheese and have an ingredient list that is all allergen free.
Right?
Is that kind of similar to the dairy world, or not as much? Just because
yes and no. The dairy industry is an old school industry, so it's been around a long time. There's lots of old school rules to the dairy industry, like as in cheddar has to fit a certain standard of identity. So you can't go outside that box and still call it cheddar. It still has to, you know, and there's nothing artificial in cheese anyways, natural cheese. So, you know, the coloring is a seed called the annatto seed. So if ever you see an orange cheese, that is annatto color. They are not allowed to use anything else. So the old school rules that come with the dairy industry don't really lend themselves to AI. And
the only color.
Yeah, there's no other. I mean, you could soak it in wine. That would make it purple. But you know,
or you could like smoke it, or you know, stuff like that. But really, it's just kind of like everything else, right? Like champagne has to come from one region, and just this, I guess it's the same with cheese. Specific. Okay, so like, walk me through like what is your typical day like? You know, as a cheese purveyor here on the Central Coast.
Right. So. It's a great question because I own a small business. So I am the bookkeeper. I am the janitor. I am
the janitor. Oh no.
You know, no, not really. But so a typical day we have at Vivant, we do a lot of what we were talking about earlier, wholesale business. So we partner with the wineries, the restaurants, and we supply cheese to them. We have a delivery van, and we supply within like a 60-mile radius. We do a delivery route 4 times a week. So typically we do those wholesale orders first. So we get the wineries orders out, and we get the restaurants orders out, and then the delivery truck leaves. And then that's when the lunch rush hits. So we do paninis, we do wine, we do beer, we do salads, sandwiches, cold sandwiches. So we get a little bit of a lunch rush. And then also at the same time, people just wanting to buy cheese. So that's kind of what we specialize in. We carry about 150 cheeses, and people can come in and just taste to buy. So they can, if they not sure, we like people to taste because you can go buy cheese at the Trader Joe's if you want to, but you didn't get to taste it. So when you bring it home, you're like, ew, that's gross. I don't like that. So we like people to taste, make sure that you really love what you're getting and that you're happy with your purchase.
So, with that many cheeses, how do you decide what goes in your shop?
It's a little bit driven by wholesale, so it depends on what's pairing really well right now.
Okay.
So the wineries still bring their wines in. We pair them together, and then we send the cheese back out to the wineries to be, in plates. And we've had to kind of pivot along the way, especially during 2020. We had to pivot our business kind of to less grazing sort of situation and more sealed plate situation. So now we do a lot of sealed plates, vacuum sealed plates.
Yeah.
That we didn't do before that, but it's been great. So yeah, we send those out to the wineries, and then that, of course, drives traffic back to us. But yeah, that kind of drives my product mix. Whatever is pairing well, whatever the chefs are liking, whatever I like. I mean, I get a big say in it, obviously.
Yeah,
so.
obviously. Yeah, of course. Right.
I buy it. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, whatever's kind of cool and different right now. I do read up a little bit on the trends and what's happening. And I'm not a real trendy. I don't follow the trends very much, but if there is something new and cool coming out, I do want to taste it, so I will order
a
some
couple
to get
a little bit.
Yeah, and see, and then we'll, as a team, my staff will taste it and we'll say, what do you think? Can we sell this, or is this kind of just a novelty crazy thing that somebody came up with?
Yeah, is there a lot of that coming out?
There's a lot of novelty. Yeah,
no.
Yeah, which I mean, it's great. People love it. People like that kind of stuff. There's a black cheese out right now that's black lemon Gouda. We don't carry it because I don't know, but it people love it because it's black and like that.
The color, just because of the color.
Literally, the cheese is not supposed to be black. So
I was gonna say, I was like,
but it's charcoal that they're using to infuse
to do it on
to
the
make
outside.
it black. Yeah, so anyways.
Is there any like surprising pairings that you've put together that you're like, oh, that probably I wouldn't have guessed that would work, but that works?
Yeah. So my husband and I did a panini pairing with Eberly a long time ago. We did one with Donati too, but panini pairings are fun because you get to incorporate different, not just cheese and wine.
Yeah.
So you get to put in a fig jam, you get to put in a spice, you get to put, and then the bread
Right.
tones everything down a little bit, which is nice. But yeah, we did one with an espresso crusted cheese, a panini with an espresso crusted cheese, and I think we put some fig jam in it. I can't remember. But that one was really fun for us. It was people loved it, and we did a mango ginger panini too. So we have a cheese with mango and candied ginger in it. So we melted that in a panini, and it was just amazing.
Wow.
With the wines. So
yeah,
those are fun.
So yeah, you're doing a bunch of creative stuff also with like the cooking you're actually doing too, along with everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. Whatever the wineries want,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
right. And the chefs, right? I guess a little bit.
Yep, absolutely. So we like doing fun stuff like that. I mean, if we do a lot of now that it's 4 years after 2020, we're doing a lot more grazing boards. Which I don't know if people know what that is or not, but it's a charcuterie board that you build with, different heights and textures, and it's a very aesthetically pleasing, but everybody can just graze on it. We're doing a lot of those right now. People are liking boxes of cheese, like picnic boxes are really popular right now. Yeah.
So did that explode kind of during COVID? Like the charcuterie board stuff?
No, we were doing a lot more of them before that.
Before?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's been a slow to get back to where we were before that has been a slow road. Kind of an uphill climb to get people back to just come on, let's just do this.
I know. Well, I think Paso's a good. I feel like they're like, yeah, we're keeping our businesses open.
Yeah.
Man. As opposed to a lot of the other cities around here. I'm like, good for Paso, man.
We didn't close not one day. Yeah.
Which is great. Yeah, was there any challenges, obviously, during COVID, other than just people trying not to come in or anything like that?
Well, for everyone,
everybody,
it didn't matter. But as a business, I laid off my staff, and it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I laid off my staff, and I just left the door open and sat there and waited, just me.
Man.
And for a month, I had a few regulars that would come in and try to support, and It was really nice. I got to know them much better because it was just
Yeah.
one-on-one,
Yeah.
and they didn't have anything to do either.
Yeah,
So they would
nobody
just
did,
come in and
really.
hang out with me at the shop. It was kind of fun. But yeah, then a month later is when the rule came out that the wineries needed to have food with their tastings if they were going to reopen. And that's when the plate business hit. So then
Oh, okay.
I rehired my staff, and then we even brought on more staff after that. We were making upwards of 200 plates a day that time.
Oh my gosh.
At that time, yeah, because everybody needed to serve food.
Right.
Yeah,
To be open,
so,
yeah.
yeah, it was a good thing, and a lot of them stuck with it. A lot of the wineries really liked it and stuck with it.
They're still doing it today.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Do you travel at all to like try different cheeses as well, or are you just ordering them to have them come in and have you taste, or a little bit of both?
Right, a little bit of both. We do go to the Fancy Food Show, which is an amazing place to try everything under the sun. It's usually not usually, I guess, but San Francisco is one of the places that they have it, and it's huge, so you can try kind of any cheese that you've ever thought of. There's the purveyors are all there.
And this is across the world, purveyors?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
They have different sections in there. Like France will have a section, and Italy will have a section, and then America has a section, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my favorite place to do it because you can do it all in one
go, huh?
Yeah, it's just 3 days, and I can figure out everything I want for the year.
You're like,
yeah.
Are you cheesed out by that?
Yes, absolutely.
I would think so, right?
Yes, it's very efficient, though. I like it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, because I talked to Azita, and she's always going to France to taste patisserie and getting inspired. And that's kind of something you got to be locally. And
Yeah.
but she loves France, so
there you go.
France.
There is that.
Yeah,
it's a good write off.
Yeah, exactly.
I was doing research.
Yeah, it's a write off for
Yeah.
sure. So when I was talking to Jennifer, she said that they will harvest some of the bacteria strains off of like a brie or a blue cheese. Is that when they age those cheese, it's just the bacteria that's in the air, or do they actually put in bacteria for the aging process for a lot of stuff like that?
They do inoculate. It's not just in the air. I mean, in other countries, it might be just natural in the air, but not here because we have restrictions on that. But yes, so they inoculate. Depends on what kind of cheese you want to make. Like if you want a blue cheese, you'll take that Candida mold, or not the Candida mold, the Roquefort mold, and just mix it in with the curd as you're forming the wheel. And so then when you put the wheel in the press, it's already in there. And then, but blue cheese or blue mold needs oxygen to grow. So like when you first cut open a wheel of blue cheese, the inside of it is a kind of a yellow color, not blue, because there hasn't been any oxygen in there.
I see.
So then the blue cheese makers, after they inoculate the wheel, will take and pierce it with what would be like needles, syringe needles or whatever, and they will just incorporate air down into the wheel. So on the inside of blue cheese, you'll see these straight lines where the air has gone in, and the blue mold will grow there where it has some air to breathe.
So will it grow, like if they do that in the center of it, will it grow to the outside? It will.
Yeah, because there's more air. So you don't press blue cheese very hard. It's kind of you leave the curds with air in between them, a little bit of air, so that the mold will grow on purpose that way. Yeah.
And then as far as like the aging process, like the sourness, is that also associated with like when they decide to pull it, or bacteria, or, kind of like giving it its distinct taste?
So sour shouldn't be a
oh, okay. Maybe I'm saying the wrong word.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeasty might be what you're talking about.
A
little fruity, little yeasty. So you don't want that. That's too much whey in the cheese.
Okay.
That'll make it go bad fast. So mold and bacteria are not always good in cheese. If you put them in there on purpose and you foster them that way, then they're good. But they can also get in there on their own, and then they will make the cheese bad really fast. Depending on what the problem is, but so you do taste it. You plug, we call it plug. There's a tool for it, a cheese plug, so that you know how far along that cheese is and if it's good now, if it's time to pull it and sell it,
Yeah.
how much longer it has, and also depending on the distribution. How is it going to get to the customer? Am I taking it to the farmer's market, or am I selling it to someone who's going to put it on a truck and ship it across the country? I'll pull it earlier if that's going to happen, as
Okay.
opposed to if I'm going to take it myself to the farmer's market, I want it to be perfect today.
Right, because it'll continue to age slightly as it kind of gets shipped.
It will.
Yeah. Okay. So you have a cheese club. How does that work for the customers?
So it's quarterly. We ship out 4 cheeses 4 times a year to anybody who would like to. It's kind of fun. I pick the cheeses. It's stuff that we don't currently carry in the shop and haven't carried before. It's new stuff that I've tasted that I like. It's just kind of a fun way to get exposed to all different kinds of cheeses. And it's the portions aren't, we've learned over time, we used to do it monthly, and people are like, I have too much cheese in my fridge.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's,
You're like, okay.
That's why it's quarterly. And that's why it's about a pound to a pound and a half of cheese total, within the 4 cheeses. And then there's also an elevated club that's called the Cynosure Club. And that one, you get an extra something of my choice. So, one time it was a rum cake. One time it was a really cool cheese knife that I found. So it just depends on, but that's the elevated club gets a cool present with their 4 cheese. And there's also a card that goes in there that explains the cheeses and offers pairing suggestions and the history of the cheese. And then there's also a recipe using one of the cheeses on the back.
And you guys also do, I think I saw somewhere you guys do workshops too, right?
Yeah, well, I can do seminars, cheese and wine pairing, or how cheese is, I have a cheese 101 class where I just kind of explain how cheese came to be over the years and how way back in the day to, currently, and then we taste through cheeses. Yeah. I do them for large groups, usually not just,
Yeah.
Right. Not just small group.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And then what would you say makes like a great charcuterie board? Like for you personally, like if you're building one for someone that's coming over.
I like a lot of variety. I like to minimize the cheese just because I just like 3 cheeses, depends on how big the board is, but and I like a lot of variety in what we call accoutrements. So lots of pickled things, lots of jams, lots of salty nuts, because that salty, sweet, vinegary, that is what kind of wakes up your palate, and you get to try a bunch of different things, some meats, some smoked meats, some cured things, lots of different textures of crackers, and 2 or 3 different textures of crackers and bread, and then like some breadsticks out the middle just to make a little, a centerpiece to it. Yeah. Yeah, they're fun. I like building charcuterie boards.
So what would you say is like people's like biggest mistakes when they're building their boards like that?
I have a couple pet peeves in boards.
Yes, please tell me.
Okay, so pinwheel, that's what I teach my staff. Do not make it into a pinwheel. So that would be if you take the first thing and put it here, and then you put everything all the way around, and all of a sudden you look down and you're like, oh no, that looks terrible. It's got to be about rivers. I call them rivers. Make rivers, not piles of cheese. And then the other thing is they need some height. Making a flat board is just boring. So I always feel like it needs a little bit of height, even if you're making it and somebody's going to take it with them. You don't want a bunch of height because you don't want tippy or whatever. But you can do height without getting crazy and tippy. But yeah, just a little bit of textural. It's just appealing to the eye. It makes people want to eat it.
Interesting. So what do you, if any, do you have any like guilty pleasure cheeses that you eat?
That's a good question. Yes. That I like. I don't necessarily eat them on the regular because,
you don't have to.
When you work in a cheese shop, you get exposed to a lot of cheese.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Every day. But yeah, I really like a good triple cream, which is a brie that they add back cream to and make it even creamier. But there's some good ones out there. I really like the one there's a few different ones, but they've they've gotten a category where they make a triple cream brie and they inoculate the middle with blue. So now it's a blue brie with a rind on it. So there's just so much flavor
Wow.
roller coaster there. And if you pair that with like a piece of honeycomb or like a dollop of fig jam, that just sends it off. That's
Incredible.
crazy.
Yeah, I just had the Susie on, and she removes honeybees. I think I told you that before we started taping, and she gave me the freshest honeycomb.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, it
So
was so good.
good.
Yeah, she's telling me all about honey and all that stuff. And,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's a whole world.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely. And then the other pairing that I love. So in the fall time, we get cheeses are seasonal. Depends. Some cheesemakers make seasonal cheeses. And there is one style of cheese that is wrapped in a spruce wood. So it's a small format cheese that is aged in there's a piece of wood around it, which imparts like a grassy flavor to it. And as it ages, the paste in the middle breaks down into what would be almost liquid, but not liquid. So really just luxurious, amazing. So we call it spoon cheese.
Okay.
So we usually will get them coming in the end of October, beginning November, and we will have them through New Year's. And that little cheese with a bottle of your best bubbles and a loaf of bread, and you can just forget about it. You'd be in heaven. It's amazing. It's just amazing.
That sounds like something my wife would like.
Yes,
for
yes,
sure.
exactly.
Is there any like must see or must visit destinations for like cheese lovers?
You know, it's funny. California has a cheese trail.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, it's interesting. We have the maps at the shop, but so people who put out the cheese trail pamphlet just added cheese shops onto it. So that's how we now carry those in our shop. But that's kind of fun. Like you get to see producers from, north to south in the state and go to the places and the farms. Like that would be a really fun road trip to be. It's a long one for sure. But
Yeah, I was gonna say from San Diego
Yeah.
to San Fran.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And beyond, there's a lot of cheese in Northern California up by the border.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I always just thought
nice
not a
up
whole
there.
lot of people lived out
Nothing's up there. It's just
It's
barren.
a joke.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I was doing some research last night, and it was like this episode of like Small Little Story or whatever, and it was a whole bunch of different people making cheese from around the world, and they were talking about, is it Renee or it's the is it the curd from the calf stomach?
Oh, rennet. Yeah.
Rennet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that widely used in a lot of cheese making?
Well, anymore they use microbial rennet, not that's animal rennet.
Right.
It kind of got jaded a while back that it was mean to the calves, which it isn't. But
Gotcha.
I mean, people said that. So,
Yeah, sure.
So there is a microbial rennet. There's a vegetarian rennet. So there's different options. I would say most people are using microbial rennet. It's just man-made rennet.
It's just man-made.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these were all from like different countries, and there was one person that just let the flies land their larvae, and I was like, oh my gosh, and they're like, this cheese is delicious.
It's great.
I'm like, I
think
don't
I'm good.
know.
Yeah. And the one that they have one that, speaking of novelty cheeses, the one that they put worms all over the outside of it on purpose, and then the worms kind of like make a rind to it. It's just, and then the worms get inside, and then you eat like, ugh.
Have you had that?
No.
You're like,
I'm good. No thanks.
that doesn't
That's
fare
enough.
well.
That's enough for me. Too much.
All right. Well, we can wrap this up. Is there anything that you want to tell anybody out there? And I'll have you plug all your stuff too, and I'll put it, when I post it and everything. But anything else you want to add?
I don't know. I think we covered quite a bit.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Come into the shop.
Come and see us.
Come and see the shop.
We have the nicest staff in the world. And it's a fun experience. It literally is. Like, we have a little patio. You can get, like I said, buy a bottle of bubbles and sit out on the patio and enjoy that cheese.
And freaking awesome paninis, it sounds like.
Paninis. The paninis are great. Very popular. Salads, all that stuff. It's fun. It's a nice little getaway if you're looking for a fun lunch. come and see us.
It seems like Richard's in there seeing you.
Yeah.
Richard Westcott.
Yeah.
He told me about you.
Yes.
So, okay. So, give me your website and then give me your Instagram or whatever social so people can find you.
Right. So we're website is www.vivantfinecheese.com. And then on Insta we're at Vivant Cheese.
Do you have any events coming up or anything special coming up, in the next, at least the holidays are kind of around the corner too. So.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, we're going to do the Garagiste Festival, which is the small produced wines, the small winemaker festival in Paso, which is always a fun event. Those are the guys that make I think it's 100 cases or less or 150 cases or less a year. So that's kind of a fun event. I really like that one. We make cheese plates on site. We make about, what did they say? I think there's supposed to be 3,000 cheese plates. We'll make them one at a time on site that day. My husband and I do it. It's fun. We have a good time.
Nice.
So yeah, that's coming up. And what else? I don't know. Fall harvest. We had a lot going on with harvest and just
holidays.
The holiday stuff. Yeah, we're getting ready for that and gearing up and getting the shop ready. We bring in a lot of cool stuff for the holidays. Just gifty stuff and new cheeses will be coming in. I pre-ordered a bunch of new cheeses that should be arriving end of October into the November. So it should be fun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think
Perfect.
I'm good.
All right. Let's wrap this up.
Excellent.